I thought I was just hoping to survive and make a buck and not feel like a loser.
Gotcha.
Because here I was not being able to get a job or do anything I still hadn't accomplished or had any semblance of any kind of professional career whatsoever. And now I'm mid-30s and most of my people, or most,
you got a girl with a ring on her finger.
Yeah. And I have this perception that every man on the planet has surpassed me and lapped me 3 times over.
That's, we talk about mental health and we're going to swing back to mental health. But that feeling, I just feel like it could be something that's universal to all men. That feeling, it's almost instinctual, like it's in our genes.
Like the provider or something.
Yeah, it's that provider thing, that hunter-gatherer. We want to be the man where we feel good about ourselves because of what we're giving to our family unit, whatever that might be, or our girl or our guy or whatever that is. Do you think that's genetic? Do you think that's something that's just inside of all of men? Is that changing now as this culture seems to be changing the ideas of roles?
It will change if we let it.
Yep.
And I think that it should. I think we should shuck that. It's a totally different game out there. Really, I mean, our advantage as males was literally just size and strength.
Sure.
That was the only advantage we probably ever had, but it behooved us when that was the most important thing to stay alive.
Right.
Nowadays, it is no longer anything that is relatively important.
It's a new game.
So it is totally different.
Yeah.
So I am more than happy to try to take a back seat and be a supporter, a staunch supporter of my wife's career instead.
I have said my wife and how formidable she is and what her and Shannon are building here is incredible. And I just want to go for the ride. I've always said, no, she's not here. Thank goodness she's not here. She's not here, is she? I have said that I would be the Stedman to her Oprah anytime.
Totally.
And I'm happy to do so. Me too. Happy to do so.
But that's not easy, and most men aren't.
A lot of men aren't, are they? At the end of the day, let's fast forward a little bit. This tech experience that you have with this accelerator is one of the areas that attracted you over to He Changed It with what Candace and Shannon are doing. You see the need for it. Obviously, it's an obvious need that's out there. It's a huge vacuum. Nobody seems to be filling it in the way that that their vision is going. You understand it. You understand tech. So it's safe to say that you bonded with those two when it came to the mission of what it is that they want to build, and you have tech experience. And so you bonded with them from a perspective where you can help. Safe to say?
Yes.
Now let's talk about the other side of it. The mission as to what He Changed It does, talking about the state of mental health. Not necessarily mental illness, which is, I think, mental health and mental illness many times get intertwined with each other. And more specifically, as the culture changes, men's mental health. Yeah. And that's the part where you got really excited.
Yes.
Because at that point you had done, I forget how many episodes of a Facebook podcast. Are you still doing the Facebook podcast?
With the ADHD.
About ADHD, because this is something you talk about.
ADHD out loud.
We talk ADHD out loud.
Yeah.
You can still find them, can't you? I think
you can. We just haven't been active on there.
Well, you've been busy.
Well, that, and there's been a bit of a resurgence in ADHD resources.
Resurgence.
Yeah.
But before that,
well, I shouldn't say resurgence, just a growth.
Okay.
A spike.
Sure. But before that, obviously we talked about the phases. We talked about the phases that you went through before your 34th birthday.
Yeah.
All these places. You've struggled with this condition of ADHD
without knowing,
undiagnosed.
Yeah.
And the moment it was diagnosed, you said, "No, I got to get this out there and information and whatnot." And so that was when you heard about He Changed It. That was an immediate kinship there because you were doing down a similar vein, just more specified. What is ADHD? Let's just throw that out there first, I guess, for our viewers or listeners.
Without trying to get technical or medical,
sure,
because I'm not a doctor. There are a lot of different symptoms. I think ADHD comes in a lot of different forms, and you can struggle with everything just from organization and mind, like task management, to emotional dysregulation, distraction, and a lot of other things. And it's basically, let's talk about it as like a mail room.
Sure.
And when the mail's coming in and the sorting machine sorts it and it tells all the mail where it's supposed to go.
Right.
Well, when the machine breaks down, the mail doesn't stop. And so it becomes overwhelming. And I think that's probably the most difficult mental health related aspect of it is that you just start to feel overwhelmed.
You're drowning.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so it can be very difficult, and you're either drowning in anxiety, you're drowning in depression. It comes in a lot of different forms. Yeah. Pressure. And then you start to look for release valves to relieve that pressure. And this is when we start to talk about, well, 75% of suicides are male and a lot of other things. And again, without deep diving into trying to sound like I really understand humans.
Right.
But just from my own perspective, when you are bottling all that stuff up and just the way we're wired, I think this goes to the way society looks at men and women, and divides them, and then raises them differently.
Stigmas,
yep. All of that kind of stuff, which I have absolutely shucked now, and have come back to help other people really do the same.
Yes.
And just say your story resonates, and to flip the script on strength, what is strength and what is weakness when it comes to who you are and how you look at yourself and the way that you deal with and feel, the amount of strength that it takes to do certain things, whereas we often look at it as weakness. That list is so long. Absolutely.
And I think that that's one thing where all men can identify in one way or another with what you've just talked about, be it the stigmas, be it what it feels like to have that pressure from wherever that pressure comes from. Folks who have a chink in the armor, in the mental armor, something like ADHD or some of these other
it is
states.
Just a chink in the armor. It's not like you don't have armor.
Right. That's like, okay. Yeah. It's not like you don't have armor.
Chink.
Right. But you got to know where that chink is.
Yes.
And that so many
was
times,
the key.
So many times on this podcast, it has the overwhelming theme that has gone through all the podcasts that we've done so far is awareness.
Yeah.
Awareness is so important.
Yeah.
Because with awareness, you now have choice how to deal with what you're now aware of. But I mean, I think I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you talk about these phases you went through, substances and things like that. Yeah. If you would have had awareness as to where things are at, sometimes these phases can be us searching for answers, can't they?
Overridingly, it's I'm different. I know I'm different. I see I'm different. I feel I'm different. I'm told I'm different. Why? I don't believe that. But I now need to try to search for my place and where I fit in. And it certainly wasn't socially. High school taught me that. And so when I came out of high school, I really wanted to be normal. I wanted a social circle. I wanted people that I felt like I wanted a tribe in a way. And I was uninterested in school. I was uninterested in working. I was really mostly interested in a tribe and feeling accepted by both men as a tribe and women as a partner.
Right.
And so I chased both fervently.
Right.
And when you're in a small town like Vernon, there's not a lot of options, but there's a lot of distractions. And, it's interesting once you start to dive into ADHD and you find out that 80% of people with ADHD who have a substance abuse problem, it's cocaine, because cocaine is very closely tied to Ritalin, and it really just sharpens you. So when you start taking, when you start doing cocaine, you suddenly get boom. And now
you become focused.
I'm focused. I can finally
and hyper focused at that.
And like hyper focused. Yeah. Problem is if you're like me, you want just more focus, and then it leads to, all the bad things. But it was this euphoric, like, oh my God, now I know I feel like this is what it feels like to be on it, like to be ready. I am empowered to do great things.
It's clarity.
And you look at people who are like high on cocaine, you're like, yeah, that's how I feel all the time too when I'm on cocaine, because I feel like I could, I can tangle the earth. But for people with ADHD, that's an unknown thing, and it becomes super attractive.
What are some of the signs? What are some of the techniques? What are some of the strategies that maybe you have looked at that have helped bring you that clarity, so as not to get it from something like cocaine?
Yeah. I think the first thing is to look inward. And don't worry about anything outward, look inward and begin a journey of understanding yourself. I had some explosive things happen because that was my nature.
Sure.
0 to 10 to 0, which is the want of ADHD people. And then like, oh, nothing happened. And people are left shattered in your rearview mirror. Wow. You're just a wake of destruction. Sometimes you're just really good at it. Right.
Yep.
But he was listening to me rant about something and he suggested this and it was great advice because he said, go home, look up a YouTube channel called How To ADHD. Jessica McCabe. She's one of the early kind of pioneers who really got on this and was a really strong voice and created an amazing YouTube channel supported by her husband who does all the, design and audio and stuff like that for her. It's a great channel. I binged on that for like 2-3 hours that night. And that was where I came downstairs to my wife. I said, I just figured out my entire life. Like everything about
it was that profound.
Who I am and what's gone on in my life and why I react and overreact and I'm sensitive and insensitive and all the things, were like, I'm pretty sure this is it. This is it. And then I went to my parents and I'm like, all right, tell me about when I was young.
Were you immediately empowered? Were you scared? Were you apprehensive?
I was excited.
It was excitement.
Oh yeah. I was just like, because I think they say like 80% of the prescription for ADHD is really just the diagnosing of that you have ADHD.
Because there's a weight lifted off your shoulders.
Now you know where to. Yeah. It's just like now you have an understanding of where and what's going on.
Right.
Why do I overreact? Why am I emotional? Why? When I'm sitting in front of my boss and my boss is being an asshole, can I not stop from saying, you're a fucking asshole? And it just comes out.
Right.
And you're like, oh, probably shouldn't have said that. That's death to that career. I'm looking for a job tomorrow. Yet you just couldn't help yourself from doing it.
You just light the fires.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just the impulsivity of everything. It's just, to be bad with money, bad with controlling your anger. You're always late. People who are always late, why? Because you're insanely optimistic about how long it might take you to get ready and get there. And it never, ever goes that way. But it's known that, ADHDers are eternally optimistic. So that's like an upside.
See, isn't that interesting? There's a nugget right there. When you think of the stigma of ADHD, optimism isn't one of the things that come to my mind first thing. I mean, you don't think of somebody necessarily being an insane optimist. When it comes to ADHD, you think of, shiny. Oh, look over there. Or, other things. Optimism, insane optimism, not a bad thing.
No, not
but
as long as it's not delusional.
As long as it's not delusional.
Yeah.
It needs to be tempered.
But, counter to the optimism is the rejection typically of people who steal that optimism. And I do not like it either. If it's my kids, my parents, my wife, if somebody's being negative or pessimistic or just stealing my optimism and like, case in point, I feel like I've got enough money saved up to buy a car.
Yes.
And I want my parents to loan me like $1,000 to like get this
to finish you, get you across the 1 yard line.
It's like a classic 19-year-old. It's a sports car. It's $5,000. 1980. 1992 people. So
it's a 5.0. It's a vanilla ice Mustang.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Exactly. And they say, no, you're all hot and bothered about it. You're this and that. And then they won't, this and that. And you hate them. Right. You hate them for taking away. They don't support you. You've never loved me. And I mean, it just like
it goes from a dizzying high to a catastrophic
crashing low.
A crashing low. Yeah.
And it's just, just the highs and lows, your whole dang life.
And that's where he changed it is trying to come in and fill holes that people may not even know that they have. That we talk about, you come into, he changed it. You take something and you leave something.
Yeah.
And I think that's where this brotherhood.
It's a take a penny, leave a penny for men's mental health.
100%. That's exactly right. That's what he changed it is all about. I'm really excited as we move into we're talking about where we're at as a company right now, moving into beta testing. Very excited about that. We are excited about your guidance for the movement to grow Very grateful for it. And if anybody out there who sees this wants to be a part of this somehow, please reach out to us, info@hechangedit.com. And we're extremely grateful that you are part of our journey, and we're a little bit of a part of yours as well. Hopefully that just grows and blooms. Todd, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to be here. I am sure it is not the only time we are going to do this.
I hope not. And it's been a pleasure to be here.
Awesome. Thank you so much. For heCast, the official He Changed It podcast, I am Mike Chisholm. Have a super day.